forward to make an adjustment at the line of scrimmage, and the ball is snapped before
See,
ready. Bouncing
when this shit happened, bro, I knew it was over with, bro. I knew it, bro. This is when I had my first contact with the football guys, bro. This is when me and my beef with the football guys began, my nigga.
Make it bounce. Let a 40-ounce pound shit about make it bounce. Ooh, whoever want a nigga get it. Whoever want a nigga get it. Whoever want a nigga get it. Whoever want a nigga get it.
What's good, YouTube? Back another YouTube video, bruh. And today, we got the worst Super Bowl of all time. Yes, my nigga, the worst Super Bowl of all time. And if y'all don't know, my nigga, yes, my Broncos is 100% a part of this bitch, man. I was disappointed as hell, bro. You telling me we did all that this season just for us to come on like this, bro? Oh, we dead ass, my nigga. We only put up what, 8? Now, if y'all don't know, like I said in my other video, bro, I was a young nigga at this time, so my mama, you know what I'm saying, nigga had school probably next day, you know what I'm saying, my mama did not play that shit. I know what, but all I know was I had to get to bed. I mean, I had to go to bed. That's all I know. So if you're new here, bro, leave a like, comment, subscribe down below, follow me on my socials on the screen, nation, link in the description as well. On the road to 800 subs. You got like 5 likes this video. Let's get to this video.
The year is 2014. We just finished the playoffs and we're poised for one of the most exciting Super Bowls of the modern era. Because on the surface, we have the Warden, the arguable GOAT, Peyton Manning,
yes, sir,
team of the Broncos to the Super Bowl with a high-flying offense. And there's no more perfect of a foil to take on the biggest stage than the Seahawks of that year and their legion of boo. But what we were about to get is arguably the worst Super Bowl of all time.
Man!
To understand why that is, I've got to go and give you some context. Let's start with, how about the Broncos? Like I said, this was their second year with Mr. Manning, and they were nothing more than exceptional. They opened up their season by mopping the floor with the Ravens as Peyton
straight built,
usually sound Baltimore defense to
straight built, nigga.
462
ski mask mode for this one.
7 touchdowns in that game.
Straight built.
Up by taking out his brother's-led Giants team with 2 touchdowns and 300 yards, and then bring the Raiders to their house to stomp them with pure efficiency, completing 32 of 37 passes for 370 yards and 3 touchdowns. That would be followed up by back-to-back 50-point games where he would torch Philadelphia for 327 yards and 4 touchdowns, and then win the shootout against Dallas by throwing for another 14 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now you may wonder why I just read stats to you for the past minute, and while it may seem like I'm meat riding the Mannings like they sponsored this video, I can assure you
look, if you meat ride the Mannings, my nigga, I'm gonna need to be mad, bro.
Paint the picture of just how dominant this Broncos offense was. And they would take that head of steam and keep rolling ahead. Their only dropped games came in a close loss to the Colts, where Manning still connected with his receivers for 386 yards and 3 touchdowns.
RP88.
A loss to the Patriots, who had Manning's number, holding him to 150 passing yards.
Man, they lucky had that shit on to be an old nigga, bro.
In their second meeting of the
year, why he got on right here?
On offense. So
tell me this not a fit.
Only game under.
It is not a fit, right? I don't know if y'all can see it because I did kind of resize my webcam, but tell me it's not a fit, bro, for an old nigga, bro. That's a fit, bro.
Holding him to 150 passing yards, and then a loss to division rival San Diego in their second meeting of the year, while still being efficient on offense. So far, his only game under 200 yards of passing was to the Patriots, and he only had 3 games of under 300 yards. So the odds of him having one of those games was incredibly low, as he led the Broncos to the postseason with the #1 ranked offense in the country in yards, scoring, and just about any measure you'd want to look at. And that was reflected with their #1 seeding in the postseason. But now let's take a look at the other side of the bracket, because we were going to have the polar opposite, the 2013 Seattle Seahawks. You see, they posted an average offense, Their quarterback, Russell Wilson, threw for less games of over 300 yards than Manning threw for games under 300 yards, and relied a lot heavier on their run game than the Broncos did, since they had the phenomenal perennial powerhouse running back Marshawn Lynch toting the rock for them. So if their offense isn't really what won them games, then it takes the approximate IQ of a
That nigga Richard Sherman was gone, eh?
Their kicker. Okay, all jokes aside, as much as that would be on brand for my channel, it was actually their defense, as you might have
No, Cam Chancellor.
Guys like Richard Sherman, Bobby Wagner, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas that you had to line up against, all who combined together to form the frightening Legion of Boom.
Yeah.
And boy, were they terrified. They would do things like hold the 49ers to 3 points while forcing a safety and picking off Colin Kaepernick 3 times. They held a prime
That nigga drew 3
to
picks.
147 yards of checkdowns and a 45.2 quarterback rating. They
Damn.
stifled Matt Ryan to 172 passing yards, and those were the better quarterbacks they played against. Don't even get me started on if they played against lesser competition, like Kellen Clemens, who donated 2 interceptions to the Legions on a 151-yard passing performance, the turnover-prone Eli Manning, who gave them 5 interceptions.
That nigga Richard Sherman on that shit. Why would you throw it?
Giants, and
Why would you throw it that way?
Carson Palmer's dreams by picking him off 4
Damn.
times, despite the fact that their offense wasn't able to turn enough of those into scores, so they still lost that game. In fact, both of their back half of the season losses came in close early games where neither team would score more than 20 points, with the other one being in a rematch to divisional rivals 49ers. So that brings us to the end of the season for both teams. The Broncos with a historically good, dominating offense, and the Seahawks with the scariest secondary in football history, and both teams acted like it. The Broncos had a rematch with San Diego for the 3rd time this season, and just barely snuck past them. Coming off a bye week, though, sometimes teams don't come out super hot, and that's what it looked like in this case. Manning threw for 200
Man, he had his
yards
speed flex on, and he had that
season
shit
as they
on for
narrowed
an old
the
nigga, bro.
miracle comeback by Phillip Rivers' late game heroics. But in the rematch against the Patriots, Peyton came out with a vengeance, dicing up their defense that once held them to 150 yards of 400 yards and touchdowns in a decisive win against one of the NFL juggernauts at the time. And on the other side of the bracket, the Seahawks defense came through, holding a Drew Brees-led offense again to 15 points, even though they required a bit of a Saints special teams disaster to carry their own offense, including 2 missed field goals and a 16-yard punt, where every one of those blunders resulted in points for the Hawks on their ensuing drive. But, like the Broncos, they were looking much more like themselves in the second game, picking off Kaepernick twice and holding him to just 150 passing yards, leaving him holding the L. And with all that out of the way, that is why everyone was hyped. The greatest offense we had seen in years, led by a Hall of Fame quarterback in his best year ever against the stiffest challenge we would ever see. A curated team of ball batters and interceptors who would cover the field more thoroughly than the grass that they.
Bro, is my ad blocker tweaking, son? Yes, I do rock ad blocker. Yes, I do.
Era of great Super Bowls. Those blowouts of the early days were long behind us, since it had been 10 seasons since our last pretty bad blowout where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers demolished the Raiders by 27 points. And every other game felt pretty competitive, despite what the scores might have looked like. For example, what looks like a bad game with the Saints beating the Colts by 2 scores had the Colts winning all the way to the uncontested 15-point fourth quarter by the Saints. Or when the Colts beat the Bears, they entered the fourth with only a 5-point lead, then another score by, oh, hey look, it's Peyton Manning, again, pushed them up to an 11-point lead, which would be the score the game would end with. So without further ado, the kickoff gets caught and there's a questionable return from the back of the end zone to the 14-yard line. Manning takes the field and starts off in shotgun, walks forward to make an adjustment at the line of scrimmage, and the ball is snapped before he's ready. Bouncing
when this shit happened, bro, I knew it was over with, bro. I knew it, bro. This is when I had my first contact with the football guys, man. This is when me and my beef with the football guys began, my nigga. Like, are you dead ass, bro? You telling me we had this dominant offense and you gonna start the game off like this for us, my nigga?
And the ball is snapped before he's ready. Bouncing out the back of...
And ever since then, it's been history, bro.
end zone for safety, and this would be the closest the score would be for the duration of the game. And the Seahawks wouldn't do anything different on offense than they usually would. Wilson would throw for a little over 206 yards, while they collectively would run for 135 yards on offense. It's just that the defense was absolutely stifling. The Broncos could never seem to establish any sort of run game, which their running attack wasn't the main form of how they ran their offense. It means the Seahawks could comfortably assume that Peyton Manning was going to pass the ball, which he did 49 times. And they absolutely ate him alive.
Insane.
Everything resorted to short passes over the middle to receivers with absolutely zero separation who could get no yards after the catch. Manning's first pass of over 10 yards was intercepted to really set the tone that if he couldn't just zip it directly into the hands of one of his receivers, it needed to be thrown away.
Insane.
They didn't even pick up a first down till nearly 10 minutes into the second quarter, which was their fourth drive. But nothing offensively for the Broncos was working. The Seahawks defense was entirely too stifling. So, 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles, and a turnover on downs later, the game was entirely out of reach. Manning put together one scoring drive while down 36-0, where without a doubt the Seahawks were allowing plays to be made in the name of keeping everything in bounds and in front of them to try to run off the clock and end this miserable game. But what we got from this game was one of the worst Super Bowl blowouts in the era of football, where we all thought Super Bowl blowouts were behind us. And aside from this miserable game, you would be right. Every Super Bowl aside from this was within 2 scores, except for when another quarterback who decided to switch teams makes it to the Super Bowl.
I know they was talking
his
shit,
defense to a title. And if you know football, you know what I'm talking about. I'm looking at both of you guys, Peyton and Tom. But overall, we might never see another Super Bowl blowout this bad in our lives, and it would be better for football if that is the case. But the combination of high expectations,
I'm not gonna lie, the Seahawks, that jersey combo was hard. That the Super Bowl, I ain't gonna.
Ultimately, just how piss poor this team looked during this entire game means that I think this is the worst Super Bowl that we will ever encounter.
Man, I'm not gonna lie, bro. This Super Bowl had me depressed, my nigga. I'm not gonna lie, bro. This shit, bro, I would never want to ever witness this game ever a day in my life, my nigga. I'm not gonna lie. But if y'all enjoyed this video, bro, leave a like, comment, subscribe down below. Follow me on all my socials on the screen. Next link in the description as well. On the road to 800 subs, and I'll catch y'all boys in the next one. Peace.